on, everybody? Like camera a little bit. Get your guy in frame. What's up? Hello. How's it going? And welcome to the Wrestling Mat. Still off. I'd like to get this correct, just so I don't look like a ghost, which I am not, but I am Matt Camp, and this is the Wrestling Mat Show. This is the Wrestling Mat. You can find it all at thewrestlingmatshow.com. It's right there. It's all there for you. It's always right above Todd. You guys know that. Welcome in. Shout out. How's it going? What up, Phil? What up, Nerdy Dude? Thanks for your membership. And yes, be like Nerdy Dude 24/7. Become a Mat member. You can do so by checking out thewrestlingmatshow.com. Navigate right over to the memberships tab and find out how you'd like to get involved. We love your support. It starts at just $2.99. And if you sign up for any membership tier, the base tier right above Todd, perhaps right there. That's the link you got to follow. That makes it even easier. Very directly there for you. But also the WrestlingMatShow.com. The mid card, you can go there as well. You could also go all the way up to the Mat event. And there is plenty of perks for everything. It's all there for you. But the most important perk as of right now is that if you sign up for just $2.99 at any of those tiers, starting at $2.99, I should say, you can watch SummerSlam with us. We already have members on board for this weekend. I will be watching SummerSlam with you guys, but there will be other perks as well. I can tell you on the mid-card tier and up, you're going to get some bonus content from me coming out in a couple of days, including my top 5 SummerSlam main events and the worst 5 SummerSlam main events. And I will tell you, that bottom 5 was a rough list in terms of trying to figure out what didn't belong, because there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of good, but there is more bad SummerSlam main events. What will main event this year's SummerSlam? I guess we're leaning towards Cody and Solo, just for the idea of Roman Reigns coming back. Doesn't feel like Gunther and Damian Priest are at that level. And we'll get into Drew McIntyre and CM Punk after what we saw on Monday Night Raw last night. We did indeed pass 4,500 subscribers. Very happy to see that number at this stage of the game. Still very early on in this channel. I thank all of you who have subscribed. And if you haven't yet and you're joining us for the first time, you're watching us on Twitter. And I'm not calling it X anymore because I know it's been a year. And I'm like, no, I still call it Twitter. So it's Twitter. But if you're watching us there, you can certainly come into the chat, come join us. And, check out what we're doing here, because if you subscribe, you get to see a heck of a lot more at thewrestlingmatshow.com. So come on over to our YouTube page at thewrestlingmatshow.com. Subscribe and become a main eventer. Become a Mat member. Nerdy Dude, congrats that you're a Mat eventer. You're at the top. I'm excited to have you aboard with us, not only for the bonus content you'll get, but so much more. Started scheduling at August already. Looking ahead here for our memberships and what we're going to be offering, including that one-on-one private AMA with me. One of our Mat event members will get that. And if you're in the Mat event, you will get access to the Who Gets to Pick the Old Show We Watch selection, I guess you would call it. We're going to watch something old, but you guys get to pick it in the Mat event. So much more. We're going to be, for the mid-card level and up, also watching an episode of Raw or SmackDown or Collision or Dynamite all together. So those are some of the benefits. And if you're on that base tier, love having you there as well, no matter what it is. And that starts at $2.99. We got perks there for you as well. You'll get priority reply to comments, and I know I reply to as many people as I can, which is usually almost everybody. Unless you're a dick, don't do that. I appreciate opposite views, but there's a way to present them, just like I'll present them back to you. I like having the discussion about everything going on in professional wrestling, and I love reading some of those comments. Starting either this week or next week, I'm going to start featuring comments at the top of the show from our clips or the past live shows that I've been reading on YouTube. Both good, bad, whatever, opposite views, because I've actually gotten some ideas from those, and I really appreciate that. I want this to be the most interactive pro wrestling show out there. I think it is, and the more you guys comment, the more we can talk about things. And as always, super chats, if you're watching with us live, get you to the front of the line. Whatever you want to ask, you can do that. If it's on topic, that's good, but if not, I'll still address it, whatever it may be. So super chats, make sure you check those out if you're watching with us live here on YouTube at thewrestlingmatshow.com. So thank you, everybody, that's been with us. As I said, the best and worst, 2 different videos will be coming out. Best and worst SummerSlam main events for those in the mid-card tier and up in the Wrestling Mat memberships. You'll be getting those later this week. Also, outside of the memberships, some things we already have scheduled. We are doing All Things Brawl Out on Friday, and how when I was in WWE, how that was perceived. What was the reaction? Friday is going to be a very big CM Punk day, and today is going to be a lot about CM Punk. Now, in addition to what I do here, maybe you heard me on Post Wrestling last week. Loved being on with John and Brandon. Or maybe you heard me yesterday or haven't heard it yet on The Lapsed Fan. Yes, hashtag lapsed. I finally was. And I talked with Jack and JD. Amazing how that came about. Actually, JD and Kayla Becker, former Braxton, got announced recently. They're in a movie together. They got to talking about wrestling, and we tell that story a bit, but Kayla made the connection, just as you'd expect. And I tell a fun story on there about what we, a little running gag we used to do with Kayla on the bump as it related to historical wrestling. But being on the Laps Fan yesterday, we did about an hour and change. So much fun with those guys. And I will tell you, after talking to them both live and off the air, they're going to be joining me here on the Wrestling Match Show for some ideas. I've brought up the Wrestle Draft. I think they're very good for it. And for those that don't know, will be coming soon. The Wrestle Draft is something we could do lots of times over. But basically, we're going to pick a topic. It'll be me, could be JD and Jack, might bring Chef in, might bring Reichert in, trying to figure out, and it could be a different group of people anytime. Also, as I'm thinking of it, that could be something that's a part of the membership tiers. So stay tuned for that. That might get you involved. If you'd like to be involved in the show as a part of the show, maybe we offer that up as well. We're going to have a discussion behind the scenes about that one. But basically what the Wrestle Draft is we take a subject. I said, as I might have talked about, I know I've talked about this, but for those that don't know, this was a pilot I kind of brought together at WWE on Twitch. It didn't happen because people who were in charge at the time totally bungled the Twitch deal, and it just didn't happen. And the idea was we took a subject. So in that pilot, we took the European Championship. My favorite championship. And there was 4 of us. We had somebody who worked behind the scenes there that was involved. Stokely was involved. I think we had, I want to say Tegan Knox might have been the 4th. She was in the mix. Candace was in the mix. We wanted people that liked wrestling as fans, but also wrestlers for star power because, we need people to watch. And we just basically drafted the best roster, 4 or 5 rounds of European champions. And trades were allowed, and the chat voted on who had the best roster. And I wanted this to be a regular thing. And it's not just that. This could be, a subject could be best year of wrestling. Best year of WWE wrestling. Okay, number 1 pick, 1997. That kind of thing. And at the end, the chat is involved and saying who's doing well and who's got a terrible roster. It is similar, and I've learned this after the fact, even though we did that pilot like years ago, that I know Pardon My Take with Big Cat and PFT Commenter, they do something similar. They call it Mount Rushmore, and they've done it over like meats, or they've done it over, all different kinds of, like they pick something random and they just draft. That is what the Wrestle Draft will be. Obviously, a lot more. It will be wrestling-centric. So something to look forward to in the future, but definitely check me out last night on the Laps Fan. It is up right now after you watch this show, and check out our content here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. But a lot of fun being with those guys, and they got info out of me that I haven't talked about really a little bit. The famed vault for WWE, not that YouTube channel they just created, but ideas that we had and things I was able to access and, being on the day-to-day. I talked a lot about that. So make sure you go check that out, and hopefully I'll have JD and Jack on here with me soon. But yes, Brawl Out will be Friday. We're going to be talking all about how that was reacted to within WWE, a lot about CM Punk as it relates to that, and let's get into Monday Night Raw, shall we? And I'll start with how the show opened. The show opens with Seth freaking Rollins. Do I have to call him that anymore? I don't work there, right? Seth Rollins comes out in stripes similar to what a referee would wear. And there it is. I'm not. I can hear. I can hear quite well. I know people sing the song. I know people like the music. From the moment Seth went in that direction, and initially did so as a heel with the extravagant outfits. It was King Troy, right, as his stylist and stylist for Becky and Charlotte and other people. You know, as a heel, over the top, loud, aggressive, whatever you want to call it, not a very likable look. Loud to be loud. What's another word? How would you guys describe what Seth has looked like for the last 2 years? Obnoxious. Obnoxious is probably the right word. As a heel, no problem. He's not supposed to be likable. He's not supposed to be redeeming. You're supposed to have reasons to hate him. And then that character stayed and he became a babyface. And I know people like to sing his song. And I get it. And it's got the right beats and it's got the right cadence and it's got... At no point in time, as a babyface with that look, has Seth Rollins looked like a top guy. Now, for the most part, his gear, when the bell rings, was fine. He's never going to be boring, and I like that about Seth. He's had great homages to different people, and he did that Phoenix NBA All-Star Game gear. He's done Bears. There's been a lot of good stuff, White Walker, a lot of good stuff. And his typical just tights or whatever always look good. But his promo look never hit me as like, that's a top guy. That's a top babyface. He looks like he could get his ass kicked. That's what that comes across to me. A main event babyface shouldn't look like you could kick his ass. That's the look to me. It doesn't come across big time. It comes across obnoxious. It comes across loud. It doesn't come across as the guy. Now, he might be very happy in that. He might go, it's over. I can do this, and they sing my song. Yes, they can. Yes. I do think there is a difference between being over because of your entrance and being at that next level because of your complete package. That's still a hell of a worker. And he's dealt with all, different injuries and things like that, whether it be his back or his knee. So that's not going to have a bad match. But that look, I really think, is a detriment to him as a top babyface. And it didn't look good. Like, he looked out of place last night between those two guys, which was just the start of a segment that I don't think went particularly well. And I really do believe that if you asked all three of those guys if they could do last night over, if they were being truthful, they'd probably say yes. Now, Drew was the star of that segment. Drew did the best work of anybody. Maybe he wouldn't. But in terms of, did that sell the match? Did that continue with the great momentum that match has built? With the great feud that it's been? It's been the best feud in the company since the beginning of the year. And not many feuds are out there since the beginning of the year. But other than, and Chad and Otis and all that stuff has taken a little bit of a turn, and there's other people involved. But in terms of consistency, Drew and Punk has been excellent. And I my notes say Seth looks dumb, not top guy stuff. Right off the bat, and I watched it last night, and then I watched it again today just to talk about it a little bit more. And I'll do that if there's something that really gives me something to kind of bite into, and I realize I can get a lot more out of it and talk about it more, I like to watch it again, and I'll take some notes. Drew also feels like that entire segment, he was spitting truth. A heel will, and that's the gray area of this whole feud. Who is what? And that's the end of it, right? That's the end of that's what happened at the end. And Seth's laughing because he hates both guys and he knows it's going to be a shit show on Saturday in the best way possible. And Seth's watching as Drew's holding up the bracelet, which got Punk pissed off. But from the jump, Drew was spitting a lot of truth. He played to Seth. That's the enemy. That's the guy who doesn't care about this place. He only cares about himself. You should know that. Which is smart because Seth has said those things. So Drew was just reiterating those things to Seth. And if Drew is supposed to be the heel, which who the hell knows at this point, that's the right thing to do. Something I notice with Punk, real story, he is absolutely trying to play to everyone. He's trying to be the nice guy. There's a level of what he does that is like, it's almost like he's trying to do what Cody does. Oh, let me sign this in the front row. Cameras are on me. And let me go high five everybody. Let me make sure I high five Samantha. Let's make sure we get that on camera. And then she gets up and she high five. Punk is trying to galvanize whatever support he has. And we'll probably talk more about that on Friday. Seth lays out the rules and regulations, which I want. It could have been a lot more basic, but I get it. He's got to talk and fill time or whatever. The gist should be, and I think is what they were trying to get at, and I don't think it was very well done, is that Seth is going to get the hell out of the way. He doesn't want them to mess with him. And Seth will let them go. My pitch was it should be an unsanctioned match. It couldn't have been a straight-up one-on-one. Okay, so that's kind of what it is. But Seth, with a lot of weird statements, you'll tap out when I say you can tap out. What? So he's going to ignore it? Like, what does that mean? If he wants to ignore the count out and not count at all, sure. If he wants to let them go use weapons and fight in the crowd, sure. That's what he should be out there to be. That's what it should be. He should be the one who can manage. That was the whole, and I appreciated, as I think back about it, what he said of, listen, I volunteered because all the referees are afraid of you. All right. I don't know why that's Seth's job to handle. If someone had asked him to do it, maybe it makes more sense, and maybe he's promised something on the back. Hey, if you ref this match, you pick your opponent. That kind of, I think that could have been a little bit clearer. And all he needed to say was, don't mess with me, and I'll let you two guys fight because you're dumb enough to beat each other up for a half hour, for 45 minutes, all over that arena. You're mentioning how stupid they are. Everybody said idiot and stupid and all that. They at least didn't call each other bitches. That's usually safe for the women. That's the big insult for the women. You got to say bitch at the end. But all Seth had to basically say was, I'm not going to get between you two. I'm going to stay out of the way while you two beat the hell out of each other. While you two beat the dumb out of each other, I'll be there when it's over. Don't mess with me. I won't mess with you. There's only one man that can handle this job. That's me. That's where the gist should have been. Way too much talking about other stuff and whatever. And that's disappointing. I was disappointed by the segment as a whole because I know all these guys are good. Drew is, I think you guys know, one of my favorites. Has been doing the work of his career, and Punk saying all the stuff he did. The best thing that happened to Drew was that I got hurt. Yeah, well, he hurt you, didn't he? Also, when Seth was going through that stuff, and he said some dumb stuff, and then Punk laughed at him, it very much undermined Seth. Like, he's a baby face, and you have another mostly babyface laughing at you because you sound like an idiot. That didn't help. That didn't help the segment. Right after that, though, Drew starts to fix it a little bit. He redirects the attention. He gets a pop for it. He talks about the screw jobs. And the crowd popped for the fact that he had been messed with by Punk. And they weren't popping because Punk did it. They were popping for Drew. Like, yeah, you're right. He did screw you multiple times. And Drew even said at some point, he wasn't trying to hurt Punk in the Rumble. He did, which is maybe more about where Punk's health is at. And Drew got a pop for redirecting that attention and talking about the screw jobs. Then he calls CM Punk Charles Manson. He called the babyface because that is technically, I guess, where things are aligned. But if there's any babyface in him at all, which I know they're trying to play with, he called him Charles Manson as a cult leader. And he mentioned the fact that people were chanting, I can't go anywhere. I can't go to the supermarket. People are chanting at me. Why? Because he knew they would chant it. Now, at least Drew was able to get the people to chant CM Punk organically. More on that in a second. Drew, to me, in the entire segment, had the most conviction in his voice. Seth was doing whatever the hell he was doing. Punk came across multiple times like he was grasping at straws, like he didn't have enough material to work with. Probably because he doesn't in comparison to Drew. Punk goes, for 10 years I was absent from this company and they chanted my name. And they didn't. Talked about being the third wheel. Says something. He says to Seth and Drew, you get to be in my orbit. You get to breathe my air. Fans are supposed to cheer that? Maybe they're not. Very arrogant statement by Punk. As he was trying to get chance. His insults were, you're stupid. You're dumbing yourself. He kept saying that. You're dumbing yourself. His insults were not biting. They weren't good. He asked for chance 2 different times in that segment. He got him at the end. But it very much reminded me of Triple H would be cutting promos at his absolute worst, soaking in chants that weren't there. That's what that came across me last night with Punk. He wasn't getting what he wanted because the whole segment was just weird and flat, and it took away the momentum. The heat that had been so well built for 7 months. Air came out of the balloon last night. I don't have a problem with Seth being part of the match. I think it needed that. I think you needed to have a reason to have the first match be a singles match, but not be a straight-up singles match. And having Seth in there, maybe he takes a bump. He lets them go. Seth's not a typical WWE official. He's letting them go tonight. It just feels like they ran out of steam, and they ran out of steam on the go-home show. It didn't sell the match like anything else that's happened. When I saw it get announced last week, and there's another one massive thing that I'm sorry I skipped over. I am well aware that they wanted to protect the match. And Seth came out and said, you can't touch each other and you can't touch me. Now they're going to follow the rules? Now? When they haven't followed the rules for months, they're going to follow the rules so they can have a sanctioned match on Saturday? As opposed to just kicking the shit out of each other last night? The way that story was built, there should have been a line of security in front of both men with Adam Pearce out there. That sells the heat between the two. We could tell them that they couldn't touch each other, but I'm going to make sure that they can't touch each other. Adam Pearce is trying to protect a big money match. And even Drew said, hey, on Saturday at SummerSlam, I'm going to get paid a lot of money to beat you up, and I would do it for free. Sure, it's about the money, but he hates Punk. This is not about a championship anymore. This is a personal hatred, and it's damn good personal hatred. But all that stuff that's happened, you couldn't keep these guys apart. You got to stay home because I'm talking to him next week. Well, you can't be here. We got to put people. And all of a sudden, they just listened last night? Why would they give a shit? Why would they care at all about the rules? About who gets a 1, 2, 3? It was about her. Drew said, I'm not going to stop until your heart stops. That has nothing to do with a match. And that's not on him, by the way. That should have been cleaned up. Should have been cleaned up. Phil just said, if you remember last week, Pierce said it was either one of them hate each other, the match is off, the person was suspended definitely. Whatever. They still hate each other. They shouldn't have been in the same ring, feet apart from each other. All of a sudden, they're going to listen. All of a sudden, like either guy can't afford a suspension. Drew got a sword from The Rock. He's good. No one's going to mess with him. CM Punk is obviously getting paid a lot of money. They could absolutely handle it. A suspension. Because they hate the other guy that much. That was a simple thing that could have added heat. You open in the ring with Adam Pearce. You show the security. Cole and McAfee go, folks, we got the referee instructions coming up, and you can see how much hatred there is between CM Punk by the amount of security that Adam Pearce had to bring in to keep those two apart. That's all you had to do. Not Seth going, you guys can't touch each other or the match is off. And they listen. That goes against everything that's happened in this story. Why? Because they get to go in the ring now and the bell rings. They missed. Just the segment was a miss, and it was a miss at the worst time because it's the go-home show. Now, the match is sold already. I think everybody knows that. I think there's still a large contingent of people that want that to be the main event because of the heat that was built. It doesn't have as much as it did 2 days ago, but it still has a lot. Personal heat. Tom bringing up the bracelet. Punk not grabbing it. You're pushing his envelope, and he stops. That's where he stops it. He calls out your family, and that's what Punk's family is. It's his wife and his dog. It didn't seem believable that they were okay not touching each other. If that rule had been in place for longer, sure. If you say, if you don't, add in the title, whatever it may be, and I said it's bigger than the title, but they could have put a bunch of security between the two of them. And you know what? At the end, they could have fought through that security. That was the brawl that was needed to end the show, not the one that they did. We will see what they do on Saturday. And you can watch it with us right here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com if you are one of our membership tiers, which start at just $2.99. We'll be watching that match and all of SummerSlam. Let's talk about Priest and Gunther. What do you guys think about the pre-show stands promo where they shoot it from across the way and Gunther's just talking? His words are effective. It just feels like it's an odd way to shoot it. I like that better when it's Jackie sitting with somebody in the stands and doing it that way. It's weird to have him just walking through random rows talking than to shoot it from across the way. Give me him training. Give me him talking to someone. Why is he pacing around in street He's not like working out. People run the stairs and all that stuff, and you could have stopped him there or what. Cameras catch up to him. It was very weird that was like his pulpit. Here I am in section 127, row 16, talking about Gunther, talking about Priest. It's just weird. It's just I appreciate trying different things. I just don't. It was different to be different, and it felt like, why is he walking back and forth talking there? Why there? But Gunther has done a good job. Here's what they've been trying to accomplish, right? Gunther is obviously a heel, dominant in the ring, but now, and he's done this with Miz, he's done it with Sammy, he's done it with any babyface opponent he's had when he's been given the chance. He's pretty good at talking them down, at explaining why he is above them, where he came from. He's done that well with Priest. They are clearly positioning Damian Priest as a babyface, and he is starting to get those reactions. Bigger and bigger. It still feels like a weird time to do it. To reposition him now when Gunther should walk out as world champ, just because it makes the most sense, and that's how he's been booked. But they're getting those reactions. In the main event, Gunther Finn, that was supposed to be an NXT TakeOver UK Dublin, whatever the hell they called it, match, pandemic, whatever. It was fine. Unfortunately, just based on how, and I'm a big Finn guy, always have been, just based on how Finn's been positioned, it wasn't going to be a back and forth affair where the decision, the finish was in question. Gunther should win that match. Gunther won that match. Goes back to the choke. That brings Priest out. Now, that's a babyface thing. He came out to save his guy. Even if Finn's a heel and Judgment Day are generally heels, that was a babyface move. It got the reaction they wanted. Priest comes out. Okay, there's the world champs music. He comes out, and we get a brawl. Did it make you care any more about that match? Has anything made you care more about that match as it was announced? This is me just asking everybody. Do you care more that since the match was announced, Priest is more clearly, positioned as a babyface and will be that way going forward? Does making it more clear, heel, babyface, does the dynamics of that make you care about the match more? And the other thing is there are people, because he's so damn good, that will always like to watch Gunther. And I get trying to direct people away from that. Nerdy dude. But to be honest, Matt, yesterday's show had a weird vibe to it. Maybe I was expecting more from the Go Home show episode. Wasn't Go Home tier for me personally, and SummerSlam was big for PLE. I agree with that. I also think unfortunate scheduling with the Olympics. They made that a wrestling-heavy show last night on a SummerSlam card that has 7 matches. And a lot of people we saw on the show in the ring last night are not wrestling at SummerSlam. Gunther, Sammy. Am I missing anybody? I think that's it. Holy hell. Priest didn't work. I know they appeared. That's why I'm not saying everybody has to wrestle. You do play it safe this week. That's not the worst thing in the world. But there were a lot of matches that, think of the women. And maybe this will change. It's a 7-match card. I'll skip ahead real quickly to Damage Control coming back and taking out Shayna and Zoe and Sonya. There's no match there for SummerSlam. And Shayna, Zoe, and Sonya also took out Zelina. Once again, there's no match there for SummerSlam. SummerSlam right now, no Jey Uso, 4 women total on the card, both in the title matches, and every single match was a singles match. is a singles match. Every single match on the show, as of now on Saturday, is a singles match. It felt we're on Sci-Fi. We know that. We still have to kind of build to the show. Not kind of, we need to build to the show. Here's what we give you. Now, yeah, we saw the big parts of it, right? We saw Rhea and Dom and Liv. And Liv doing like a teenage burning of her ex's stuff with the violin playing and his face behind her on the truck. It's quite dramatic for someone who isn't the best of acting. Yeah. I don't know. They really went over the top with that one. I said this yesterday when I was on Laps Fan. It's just not for me, but I know it's for a lot of people. I know the numbers it does. I try to look at wrestling in that way. I didn't 10 years ago. I do now. From being in it and being around it and learning from people. Not everything's for everybody. It's what we say all the time. There's flavors of ice cream for everybody out there. There's stuff I like on Raw. There's stuff I don't like on Raw. There's stuff I like on NXT. There's stuff I don't. There's stuff I like on AEW. There's stuff I don't. This is not personally for me. I think it's already kind of run out of gas. But I also see the numbers that it does. And when you're hitting 1 million views on social media, you know what? That's a very important metric as well. And it's working. So that's fine. The whodunit of who messed up the clubhouse, I don't think it was Liv. I think it's too obvious to be Liv. You can say it's Dom. That's certainly possible. I was looking around as I watched the segment for clues. Oh, this person's name wasn't totally, Priest's name wasn't crossed off in a couple spots. I don't think it's him. But, then you have the comic relief of Carlito. Oh, they messed up our PlayStation. He comes back. Like, that was a little too goofy for me. I do think there's something to Finn and Liv being in on all of it because there was one of those Easter eggs months ago of Liv talking to Finn. There is that. But I still keep coming back to the idea that Rhea should be a babyface, and if that's the case, Dom can't be with her. To me, and I think I've said this before, it feels like we're going to get to Rhea and Priest as the babyfaces breaking off from Judgment Day. And, like the old DX, they're going to fight for the rights to the name. That was just I saw that as some kind of date in history when they did that. That stuff was bad. Oof. The rights to call themselves DX. Don't do that with Judgment Day. Just break them up. But the clubhouse thing, I mean, Dom should end up with Liv. Rhea doesn't have to win the title yet. That should be continued revenge. And if Priest loses the world title, because all of this stuff has still kind of been hovering around his world title match, which has nothing to do with Gunther, but he's still part of Judgment. It's almost like he has to get away from Gunther and focus on that stuff and help out Rhea because that's his friend and that's a babyface and they will help each other pick up the pieces. Staying with that story, Sammy and Dom, DQ, whatever. Jay makes the save. It's almost like Jay and Sammy should remain friends at all times. Strength in numbers in WWE. That's been the thing since Triple H took over everything. You better have help, because if you don't, you're going to get your butt whooped by multiple people. So I like that Sammy got help from Jay. That's what it should be. Keep them together. Braun then jumps Sammy. Sammy fights back. Braun tries again. Gets a Luva kick over the top rope in the middle. Couldn't take the bump. Little awkward. Very surprised they did not clean that up, because I watched the show as it happened, but then I watched the recap stuff today, and they actually didn't cut that out, which I was a little surprised that they didn't. Usually they work around that. Whatever. Sammy being laid out multiple times, including to close the show multiple times, and then getting to stand tall last night. It's not always this case. Braun's winning the IC title on Saturday. He ain't losing two in a row. And they gave Sammy, a little hope. I like that, even the realism. He can't focus. He's worried about a comedy show. I like that. It's also telling people, hey, we got that show this weekend. You should go check it out. Nerdy dude. Also, the whole Shayna, Zoe, Sonya faction feels thrown together, in my opinion. Also, I don't know if I should cheer Damage Control not or should boo them. It's just confusing to me. Yeah, I wanted to get to that. That was a babyface group that ran out there last night. Absolutely it was. Shayna, Zoe, and Sonya have been dealing with obviously babyface Lena Vega, beat a babyface dancing whatever, techno tag team, whatever the hell they're supposed to be last night. And then Damage Control comes out. Now, I know things are a little different under Triple H, and we can see heels against heels and faces against faces. But that Damage Control run-in, clearing the ring, when you come in and clear the ring, that's Wrestling 101. If you come in and clear the ring and stand tall and pose, and as quickly as they did it, not a full layout, beat them down, oh my, that was a babyface run-in by Damage Control last night. A babyface clearing of the ring as quickly as they did, and a babyface pose to reset the faction. And they had the Japanese lettering and marking on their face each, and people talked about that as well. Honestly, that's a better alignment for Damage Control. People love Dakota Kai. Beloved. She's awesome. Everyone likes her. She's likable in real life. It's hard to boo her on TV. She's done a good job with it. I just think they're all too damn good. People like Kairi Sane. People think Io Sky is fucking awesome. And you know what? Again, Shayna, Zoe, and Sonya, who were much more clear-cut heels, it works. Are they going to put this on SummerSlam? Are they going to put this on Raw next week? I don't know, but I think it felt like a good reset for Damage Control. Asuka's obviously still recovering. And, Bayley's on the other show. It's been a long time since WrestleMania and the turn on Bayley. She's somewhere else. Damage Control as baby faces make sense. And I know Dakota's got Sonya next week. But they're not doing that at SummerSlam. So, there's another story last night. And I'm not saying everything has to lead to SummerSlam, but hell, on the go-home show, more should happen. Yeah, Dakota and Sonya next week. Which, let's once again see how the alignment and presentation continues. For those who are now joining us, we've been doing this for 44 minutes. We've been doing it for months. TheWrestlingMatchShow.com is where you can subscribe. Please do so. Comment. I'm answering all of them. And if you'd like to watch SummerSlam with me this Saturday, you can do so by becoming a member. It's right there for you. Right there. Go to TheWrestlingMatchShow.com. Navigate over to our memberships. 3 tiers. The base level starts at $2.99, but any tier gets you into our SummerSlam watch party. Become a Matt member and watch SummerSlam with us this Saturday right here at TheWrestlingMatchShow.com. Gable and Wyatt stuff. Otis is still getting big pops. Maxine stopping Chad and doing this like she was Mrs. Dad last night. Got a big pop. There's still a lot there. Some of the most organically strong reactions for baby faces are still coming for Otis and for Maxine. I'm glad they're keeping Otis in the mix, but it still comes back to the Wyatt Six, and you saw Gacy and Rowan and Dexter last night, and they all unmasked, and we got the Dexter video, and he said one word, so it seems like they're keeping him fairly mute. All I put down, it's an honest question, and I am very much wait and seeing. When you take the masks off, and we know who they are, right? We know that. When you take the masks off, though, and you see that it's Joe Gacy, and you see that it's Eric Rowan, and you see that it's Dexter Loomis, even though we knew that already. And you're going to put them in the ring. And you're going to do a 6-man with them. The entrance is cool. B. May, what's up? Thanks for being a subscriber. Thanks for being a member, I should say. We appreciate you. The entrance is cool. It's got mystique. They were scared last night. When that bell rings next week and they turn the lights on and they have a match, does humanizing them hurt the mystique at all? I don't know that answer. Will that take away from it? Because the original Wyatt family, and it's almost not even fair to compare, but they weren't presented in this way. They were, that was Swamp Bray. That was still a human. Cool entrance, but nothing. They just looked like they could kick your ass and drag you somewhere and you'd never be seen again. But they were humans. Brody, Luke, he had the white tank on. It was dirty. You saw who Rowan was. Yeah, there was a match, but you knew who they were. Bray wore the Hawaiian, the flowery shirts, and he had the hat, and he had, you knew they were always human. This is, and I know everybody has entrance gear and all that stuff, but that's so much of how they've been presented. And then that bell's going to ring next week, and the lights are going to be on. And I hope they don't do red light bullshit or any of the stuff that they did the second round with Wyatt and all like that. I don't want Sin Cara lighting. I don't want red light. I get it. You can't do that either. But the other thing is here, they put on some great friggin' matches. Harper, Rowan, and Bray. The Shield stuff. Man, that stuff was good. That was a big reason why they were so over. They'd have that, man. When they had that mystique, but then they get in there and they could go. And they look dangerous. And they look like killers. And those face-offs with the Shield, man, that stuff was good. Yes, it's still Rowan. Does Joe Gacy, does Dexter Loomis elicit anywhere near that reaction? Did that face-off last night? And that's also, think about where the Creeds have been or haven't been. Chad kind of plucked them. Made sense. It's I'm going to come off complaining about this, and I'm not trying to. There are a lot of people that aren't super established getting pushed all at once. Or changes. It's a lot of things at once. I think it's when I look at Raw and I go, okay, Rhea is one of the most established people here and what she is. Drew is that way. Punk is that way. This is a newer version of Liv. Gunther's about to become maybe world champ for the first time. That is somewhere he hasn't been yet. I'm talking about places like you don't connect Gunther with the world title yet. You don't connect him as a main eventer yet. He'll get there. He's about to get there. But that's not been everything he's done. Liv hasn't played in this role long enough. Joe Gacy, Dexter Loomis. What are they in this group? This group is still fairly new. The Creed brothers now have to really pick up the pace. You've redirected Damage Control. Sonya and Shayna and Zoe as a new group are kind of new. There's not a lot of established stuff going on, and I'm all for pushing for the future, but it feels like there's more established stuff on SmackDown than Raw. And it's a transitional period of such. You need stuff to hit. Priest seems to be where they want him to be. But like I said, you're trying to turn him during a babyface title run that has had a lot of help against a guy who is trying to ascend to the top. It's just a lot of this at once. And I think that's why, and I've seen the comments, I'm going off of comments. It doesn't feel SummerSlam is as big because a lot of these things are happening at the same time. A lot of these newer things, a lot of these directions of where they want people to be, they're not there yet, and they're all converging at SummerSlam. Solo's having his first main event against Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. It's probably the backdrop. It's probably the backdrop to Roman's return, Cody and Solo. But it's people aren't totally sold on Solo. It's why I think Drew and Punk, despite last night, should be the main event of the show. Or it has the most heat. It probably won't be. But there's so much, Logan and LA Knight feels like, geez, one of the most, deeper angles coming in because of how long that's gone on and the back and forth that they've had. And the fact that we kind of know who both guys are. Like, Logan's pretty established as the United States champion and who he is, as is LA Knight. It's weird to say that, but that's the truth. Bayley and Nia, we've known about this one for a couple months. I don't think it has a ton of heat. The briefcase is still around. But I think because there's been a lack of established star power or established spots for so many different people, SummerSlam doesn't have that same juice. And they could have a hell of a show on Saturday. They absolutely could. There's no doubt about that. They could have a hell of a show Saturday. There's plenty of talent on there's no question about the talent. It's a 7-match show. It's all singles matches. Braun Breaker, another good example. He's probably about to win the IC title for the first time. They've done a good job with him, but that's another thing that's fairly new. He's finding his way. I think that goes a long way. It's just a lot of new stuff at once. That's really all I'm trying to say. And it's, I wonder if they had another shot to plan it, would they have pushed things a little bit? These are the things you got to think about. Especially as you're booking a show, and it's not easy. Look, they have a ton of talent right now. They have a ton of people that are going to be very important for that company for many years to come, which is a great thing. But it seems to all be converging at the wrong time. Hollywood Blondes, I see. You're trying to get in as a membership. We will get that handled for you. Right underneath the video, there's a join button. There you go. There you go. A little help there. If you're watching, there's a join button. You click that, you become a member. I hope you'll do that, Hollywood Blondes. You have a great name in Hollywood Blondes version 4. For a lot of people that don't know, clearly Hollywood Blondes V4 gets that. That stunning Steve Austin and flying Brian Pillman were actually the 4th version of the Hollywood Blondes. So that is some good inside stuff. Well done. Hopefully you become a member, a Matt member here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. And you still have time to do that. Now, speaking of time, we are running a little short of that. I do want to once again talk to you about the memberships, thewrestlingmatchshow.com. You can navigate to the member page. You can go right into this video right now and click the join button. 3 tiers, base tier, right above Todd. There he is. And we have a whole promo video about this if you haven't seen it yet. You can go check it out on our social media at WrestlingMatt23 or just go to the membership tab and read more about this. But I'll tell you, that base tier starts at $2.99. You get a lot for that. You get plenty for that. You get priority comment replies. You get access to discounts on the merch. You're going to be involved in the AMAs that we do. If you go to the mid-card tier, You're going to get some bonus content coming out this week for those at that tier and higher. My top 5 best SummerSlam main events and the bottom 5 SummerSlam main events. The worst 5 SummerSlam main events. You can check those out. You'll also have access to AMAs with that as well. You get everything at the bottom tier to the mid tier to the top tier, the Matt event. We will follow you on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, from Wrestling Matt 23 and from the Matt Camp. And for those that are members that don't have that yet, please reach out, tweet us. We will make sure those follows happen if they haven't already. I know some have. If you're with that tier for at least 90 days, you'll get a special piece of merch because you are a special person if you are with us for at least 90 days at that top tier. You will also potentially be selected to have a private 30-minute AMA with me at that top tier. And once a month, we're going to pick something completely random, or you will as a member, and all the members get to watch it together. Jesse Ventura was at the show last night. Whatever. He's been quite outspoken about the company. I guess he didn't like Vince. There is the old governor. It's not SummerSlam 1999 anymore. By the way, had a tough time trying to slot where that match goes. I didn't know where to put it. I didn't put it either on either group, either top 5 or bottom 5 list, but not the best. Let's try to get Triple H over. Not quite. All right, we'll do it the next night on Raw. But Jesse Ventura was there. You want to get Karrion Kross over? Let him just do the impression. Forget all the other stuff he's doing. Oh, Woodsy. Someone save my boy. Someone save Xavier Woods for having to drag Karrion Kross to a good match, you know? Holy hell. Look, Woods is falling down. Now Vladimir's going. We gotta fix all this stuff. Vladimir's here. Hello. The super fan himself. We'll move him over here so he stays upright. Jesse Ventura was there, sure. Oh, there you go. Well, Triple H saying Brock Lesnar's open to return. Do you think he'll return? I don't know what he said. Brock Lesnar hasn't been on TV because he's named without being named, I guess, in that lawsuit. Have we not told that story? I think it got out, but I'll say it here. The Royal Rumble, Brock Lesnar was supposed to be in. You know who took Brock Lesnar's spot in the Royal Rumble? Braun Breaker. He took all his spots in that Rumble. They made him look like a badass because it was all of Brock's spots. And who eliminated Braun from the Royal Rumble? Not a big deal now. Was supposed to be Dom Mysterio. You know what they were going to do in Chamber? Brock and Dom. That was going to happen. And then an unnamed WWE and UFC champion got named in a lawsuit that the company is dealing with. And that's why we haven't seen Brock Lesnar. Triple H's comment. You'd have to ask Brock Lesnar that. He's up in Canada watching his kids play hockey and enjoying life. If and when he decides that he would like to do something, we'd be open to the conversation, but we'll see. As I always say, if a wrestler is talking or someone in his wrestling is talking, you don't have to believe them. He's not going to say it. And I don't know whether maybe it's better. Maybe they feel better about it or what. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know how the company looks at that. Coming up tomorrow, we'll talk about NXT Great American Bash. I will have a full stereo gum, pitchfork, Rolling Stone-esque review of Joe Hendry's concert. By the way, that song is unbelievably over. You want to know why they're attaching themselves to Joe Hendry? I got a 5-year-old in my car asking me to put the song on because she heard it. There he is. She knows it. She's doing this thing. She saw it on TV. She asked me to put it on. It is in my Apple Music library because of my 5-year-old. My fiance heard it. She's like, I don't know much about that guy, but that song is a bop. Bop means good. That's what I'm told. It's over. We're getting the concert. And we're probably getting the Gallus running tonight. And then where do we go? We will see. But he's over, and he's got the machine behind him, and that goes a long way. But we'll talk more Great American Bash tomorrow. We will preview where AEW is at heading into tomorrow night. Hangman and Darby's a hell of a match, and I noticed things have been getting announced a little bit earlier, which is good. Good promotion. The conglomeration, I'm glad to see, is still a thing. Keeping that together, very good. As they will be in action. What is it? Roosh, Mortos, and Roddy? Sure. Let's go with that. But I like that group. And the more Mark Briscoe, the better. Also, Briscoe, Mark's daughter, and Ishii. Just Mark Briscoe's daughter, son. Ishii and Willow all in the same segment. That's the fun AEW can bring. I very much enjoyed that. We'll also talk about Daniel Garcia because who knows if we're going to see him again in AEW. All that coming your way. I'm sure more news will come down. Interesting point made. I saw this on a couple of different places on Twitter today. Warner Brothers suing the NBA because they said they matched and the NBA said they didn't match and Amazon's got it. USA did something similar when they lost WWE and it didn't work out. So there is somewhat, and I want to read into it more and I'll talk about it more. I don't know how much people care about this business stuff sometimes, so I understand if you don't. I don't want to go too deep on it, but I want to read into it more. But it sounds like there is somewhat of a precedent and it didn't work out. But we'll talk about that. Real quick here from Joseph. Do you see Wardlow in WWE at some point? That dude is money. He had a tryout. They didn't go with it. And I'll tell you what, when I was in WWE, that's what I said. He's in the wrong place. And that was not a knock on AEW. It just, he fits better in WWE. And I don't know why he's been washed away in AEW. I don't think everything's gone his way. Nothing worked for really him after he beat MJF and just whooped him. Like that didn't do anything for Wardlow. MJF's been fine. MJF's been kicking ass. MJF has finally been realigned exactly where he should be, which is great for AEW. We did put up something that's gotten a lot of comments. If you want to go check it out at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. A question from Hollywood Blondes recently was, who would do better in WWE, MJF or Ospreay? And we have that up on our social media at WrestlingMat23 and on Instagram. We put it up as a short here on YouTube, and it got a lot of comments. And I like to see that. I've enjoyed interacting with those comments. Go back and check that out and see my thoughts on that. You guys had a lot of really good thoughts on how that could work or who would fit better where. I've really enjoyed that conversation. That's what I like to do here, whether it's live with you guys or after the fact when you catch it. And I know, listen, we're live at 1 Eastern, and that's a different time for everybody that's watching. We have Germany here. We have Canada here. We have people from Bangladesh here. That's what I love. Very international. That's what wrestling is. It is for everybody, as this show is, and you catch it when you can. If you're here live, thank you. And if you watch it at a different time, that's great too. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you for catching me, Plethora, on the Laps fan. I really enjoyed that with those guys. And, I will say this. When Kayla connected me and JD, it wasn't about doing an interview. Like the first thoughts as I talked to JD and Jack was, what can we do together? And this is kind of the first thing. And it's like, hey, we're going to do more. Like we felt it as we did the interview. I talked to them after. As I said, I'd love to have them here for the Wrestle Draft. And for those that missed it, the Wrestle Draft is something I know I've brought up, but I wanted to find the right combo of people to do it with. But basically me, maybe those guys, maybe Chef, maybe Dan Reichert. Might be something we throw in a membership tier that you get to be part of. We'll take a subject. As I said, we shot the pilot as the European Championship. And, okay, everybody gets 4 picks. It's a snake draft. Somebody picks first. Whoever picks fourth comes back around in the second round. You pick the best 4. You try to make the best roster of the subject. European champions, best opening matches at WrestleMania, best year in wrestling, anything like that. That's a fun thing I think we can do. Here we go. Oh, I'll do this real quick. With your Kayla story, it reminded me of the 2019 Roman mystery story on SmackDown. Did anyone digital know what was going on? No, and look at the date. 2019. I don't even want to say prime Vince, but no. Poor Kayla did not live that scream down. We played it on the bump so many times, and she loves horror stuff so much. Like I joked, I don't think that's on her reel, but she's doing movies now, so it's okay. No, some stuff you know, some stuff you don't. That felt like a hook of a whodunit just to be a hook. And remember they had the guy that looked like Rowan but wasn't Rowan? And, oh, God. Some of the crap that got thrown at Roman. Jesus. So bad. Not his fault. Will we see him in a few days? I'll ask this question right now. Will you be disappointed if Roman Reigns doesn't show up on Saturday? In some way, shape, or form. Will you be mad if we do not see Roman Reigns on Saturday? We'll keep asking that question throughout the week. But tomorrow, we'll be back, as we are every single weekday, right here at 1 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you subscribe. Think about becoming a member starting at $2.99. If you're on that mid-card tier or higher, you're getting 2 bonus pieces of content for me this week. Top 5 SummerSlam main events and the worst 5 SummerSlam main events. But if you're in any tier, starting at just $2.99, you can watch SummerSlam with us at thewrestlingmatchshow.com right here live on Saturday. And if you're in the comments on Saturday, you're a member joining us, we're talking the whole time. I'll share stories, my immediate insight. You know, as we said, I've been part of, in some way, shape, or form, having to do with the last 4 SummerSlams. I'll share those stories. We'll talk the matches as they go. If you want to be part of that, subscribe at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. The join button's right below, or head over to thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Go to our main YouTube page, navigate over to memberships, and see everything that you get for subscribing and becoming a member. Do that right now, because the show's over. But I'll be back to talk about wrestling even more tomorrow, right here at 1 p.m. Eastern.